Alright guys, brakes. Let's show you what I got going on here. So I don't think they sell these anymore, but the hydraulic handbrake, the whole assembly, I guess STM used to sell them, but they do not anymore. I want to show you my modifications. Alright, got my little pin light here, so I'll show you. So check this out. So I took and I cut off the end of the cable there. Hopefully you can, it's not super bright. But I cut off the end of the cable where it went to the original emergency brake connection, When you pull it apart, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I cut the end off with just a side cutter, right? As you can tell right there, I just cut it off. Well, the kit came with this guy right here. So what I did is I cut off the rod. I'll show you the rod later. Clear down to about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch away from this bracket right here, as you can tell. Hopefully, let me see there. There we go. Anyway, so there's our bracket. I know you're kind of sideways. See how close I am right there? So this is the emergency brake, hydraulic handbrake. So this is what I did. This line right here, I'm going to back off a little bit. So this line right here goes back to the actual brakes, and then this line right here goes to the Y that I made. And these are just brass fittings. I used Loctite to seal them because I recommend it, and then I did a little bleeder basically. So what I ended up doing, why I did that is because there's always an air bubble or an air pocket that gets caught up in here. So I made a bleeder right there, as you can see, to keep it from developing an air pocket. And I don't know if you can tell, but check this out. You can kind of tell it goes up a little ways. Hopefully it's not too dark for you, but you see how it angles up and then back down. So that's that. Let's raise the car and I'll show you the why that I'm talking about. So since this car is going to be a street car, I'm not super positive that I'm going to be successful, but I don't see why not. The ABS might freak out when one tire is slipping and one tire is gripping, and then it tries to activate the ABS to keep the one tire from slipping, and it is seeing that only both rear tires are reacting, not one or the other, because that's how they wire it, so I'll show you. But trying to make it where the ABS still will work, especially on a pavement. This car isn't going to be really driven in the snow. It's not going off-road, hopefully anyway. But on the pavement though, the rear brake should still work with the ABS, because I wired them together. And on normal, like old cars, Camaros, all the older vehicles, Mustangs, yada yada, there's only one line going to the back and then it wires off. Like my Mustang right there, there's one brake line going to the back, it wires off, to each side. So, but the ABS system. So check it out. Here's our ABS lines, right? And they run down, and then here's our pair that come down for the rear. As you can tell, I cut these off of the actual plate that is screwed on right here, and I just wired them together with some brass. And I use just a plate steel to kind of clamp it back down. And then here is our hydraulic handbrake line, right? So they're wired together, and good news is it does not look like anything's leaking, so yay me. So there's my hydraulic handbrake line, goes up to the hydraulic handbrake there. And then I pulled out the stock handbrake lines. It's not that hard. You don't have to pull the tank, but to take the brake lines off, you got to pull the tank. But anyway, so as you can tell right there, I guess we've got just enough light to see. There's the brake line. Comes back to this this T that I got going on, and then one side goes up and over the rear end. You can kind of see it back there. There it is right there. I got it mounted right there. I know it's kind of dark, but that obviously goes to this side, and then you can see this side comes over here. So Right now I just got it gravity bled. I used a vacuum bleeder to bleed it off, and I'm getting pretty good pressure, so I think I got the system all done. But as you can tell, we got the nice stainless lines for the fronts. In a past video, these things have an issue. They need to freaking move this thing like 1/8 of an inch in, or shorten this bracket 1/8 of an inch, because I had to, well, you can't really see it. Let me show you on this side. As you can tell right here, see how off center this is compared to the way it was before? Yeah, so, and then the other video that I did, I showed you how far these pads right here were above, because these pads were above the actual rotor, and after a while the lip would actually kind of override the rotor, so you weren't getting 100% on the rotor, which, I mean, it was like 5%, maybe 2% of the pad was actually overriding it, but it was getting annoying. So I fixed it on my car because I have Willwood fronts, but this car has got Willwoods all the way around, so it's got the STM kit. That's what he wanted. But yeah, as of right now, so far so good. We have got everything, you know, squared away as far as the brake system go. Hydraulic handbrake works great. Let's see, I've got my keys, and I just use a regular cheap Craftsman vac pump. As you can tell, the ground's a little dirty too, but yeah, this is pretty much, you know, got the brakes done, so I'm pretty impressed so far how it worked out. We'll let the vehicle down here, and I will show you, you know, how good a pressure we get on the handbrake. So if everything works out correctly, we will be able to use the handbrake still as a parking mechanism, you know, because it's an emergency brake. But you will have to use like a piece of tape or something over the button for when you're actually drag racing the car, unless you're really good at holding the button down even after you release it, because if you don't, then the handbrake's going to catch, and then it's going to drag the rear brakes a little bit. But on my car, I still have the stock rear brakes and all that, and I just end up putting tape over the button, like some duct tape, and then I wrap another piece around that piece of tape to actually keep it from, you know, popping up. And then that way the button, I don't got to worry about it. But when I stop the car, I got to kind of let it sit in gear, which isn't great on the trans, but when you're drag racing for the day, not that big of a deal. The only way to keep the car stationary, you know. But let's show you what I got going on for the inside of the car here. But like I said, as you can tell, it's already up. The handbrake's already up, and I've got good pressure still. I can feel that we've got good pressure. Let me angle this back and show you what we've got. But so look at that. I can feel, yeah. So if you're wanting to launch the car, you're going to be all the way up here like this. So this thing worked out great, I gotta say. But as you can tell, I gotta hold the button, right? Or, so, you know, if you're parking, there you go, no big deal. The adjuster is still on there. Here, let me show you the adjuster. The adjuster is still right there. I probably can't see it very well, and I probably put my light down. But the adjustment screw is still there, so I can tighten this up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, so far I think she's gonna work. I'm getting good pressure when I'm pulling back, so I think she's gonna work. So, and then the other thing I did too, I'll show you. This is the actual plate to hold the center console here, and what I did is I just cut off this end right here, so I at least have one screw to, you know, once I get it all replaced and stuff, I have one screw that I can hold the glove box down with. And this is kind of right in line with the bottom of the glove box, but at least I'll have one screw to hold the back of this thing down, and hopefully none of this interferes, which I don't think it will. But as you can tell, my little fittings right there, you can still kind of get to the bleeder. You know, once this thing's set in there like so, yeah. So trying to make this car as like incognito as possible, but you know, also kind of use the factory, some of the factory aspects of the car, and not to mention I want it to be somewhat like show car quality, to where, you know, when people open up the hood, or, you know, when he's out doing his thing, you know, they look at the car and they're like, wow, that's really well put together. That's what I'm trying for. You know, I'm not perfect, but I do, you know, I try to do the best I can. So I'll give you more updates, and when we get the car running and moving stuff like that, I'll have to show you how the handbrake works. But so far so good. I mean, if you have one available, or if you're able to get one of these things and throw it on your car, I mean, without being a drag car, this is still a street car. The drag car outside we're probably going to end up welding one back on his. Here's the rod. As you can tell, I cut it off. But this is your actual, you know, hydraulic handbrake for, like, if you were no floor and, you know, fuck the passenger kind of thing. So, all right. See you later.